5-quart oil change. Nothing left in the crankcase. We're pumping it through, fresh oil. We're gonna pump it through the motor till she comes out clean. We get the full 5 quarts out of her. Gonna prime the filter now before installing. We're using the synthetic 2050 Harley Davidson oil. Sorry, couldn't do that with one hand, but that looks pretty full to me. Now we're going to install it. Now using our Harley Davidson oil funnel, we're going to put our Harley Davidson Sin 3 2050 oil in the motorcycle. This we can do with one hand. Well, not well. Give me a sec. Okay, we're all topped up now. Oil filter's on. We're gonna pump her through the motor and see if it goes down any, and top her up accordingly. You want to do this with the cap off. Well, let's start her up. Sounds like a happy motorcycle to me. We're gonna have to run this thing for a minute, because as you saw, Harley Davidson oil pump doesn't do a whole lot. So we'll reconvene in a minute and it's on to the primary. Oh, and that is the correct battery for this motorcycle, which works great and is nicely constructed in the USA. The block of wood is no longer required. Now, did I say primary? Because I meant transmission. And I don't think it's supposed to be that color. So we might have to take a deeper look. But for now, let's get this puppy drained. Well, we do have a little bit of sludge on the oil plug for the transmission. Let's get that in focus there. But good news, not a lot of shavings. For 100,000 miles, that's not bad. That's nothing to worry about. Well, see, we're about ready to put this puppy back in, and we're gonna flush it first though. We want to get some of that old crap out of there because there is sludge in there, so we are gonna flush it. Get back to this in 1 second. We're gonna pump some clean oil through. Gotta love these Harley Davidson funnels. It's like they were made for these bikes or something. That worked out well. Okay, let's flush her with some of the Lucas here. We now have clean fluid coming through the bike. That's not bad. You can see our little clean puddle, and there's our dirty stuff. Now we fill her up properly. And onto the primary, finally. Okay, now these transmissions usually hold about 0.9 of a liter. We're going to start with that and top her up from there. And like a good Harley Davidson always will, no matter what kind of oil pan or catch pan or bunch of rags you put under it, she will find a way to piss on your floor as much as she possibly can, like a good Harley will. God damn, it's hard to do this with one hand. Okay. And this is our Harley transmission primary crankcase lubricant. The reason I prefer this over just using oil, and you can Some people do, but I'm a stickler, and this stuff has additives in it for your transmission and clutch. I don't recommend synthetic in the primary, especially. The transmission, okay, but not in the clutch. It's too slippery. It's full synthetic. You're gonna glaze the clutch. It's gonna start slipping. You want this stuff, and of course I'm holding it backwards. You want this stuff, there we go, for the longest life for your clutch and your primary. We're going to check the chains too and make sure they don't have too much slack in them. It's a 1/2 inch play up or down, and there is an adjustment on these, I believe. Well, it ought to be. This is what my bike evolved from. They have an adjustment pulley to tension the chain on the primary if we have to. We're going to get to that. All right, we got our 9/10 of a quart, or 0.9 of a liter in there. If you can see that, that is absolutely perfectly on the line. There we go. And it's kind of hard to see. It's very clean now. It's supposed to stay that color. There's no friction parts in there, just gears. Primary will always look dirty. Don't worry about it. Just change it when you change the oil, or every other time. Where's my wrench? And you should be fine. It always looks black because the clutch is like a brake pad, and it'll shed that stuff into the primary. Won't hurt it a bit. This stuff's made to deal with that. It'll always look black. Transmission should be clear. Okay, now we're gonna have a little look at the drive belt here, and as you can see, there's no cracking. Teeth are good on the primary driver, sprocket, main sprocket. Teeth are good on the belt. It's actually very little signs of wear. I'm impressed. There's next to no play in that. I can't get a 1/2 inch out of it, so it's perfectly tensioned. So, much as I'd like to charge for that, we are not going to be installing a new one, and we're not going to fuck with it at all because it's working perfectly. Let's go play with our shifter linkage and our primary. Oh, hey, don't mind my cigarette. Okay, we got her drained here. We're going to finish removing our derby cover. Very important when you do this, leave this top bolt on there but loose. As you can see, that's already starting to come off of there, and you don't want to do the bottom one last because we can just grab it and walk away with it there. Oh, let's put that in the oil because we do have the wrong gasket for this, but thank God it looks like we can save this one. We're just gonna put that right down there. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. You just got to be careful. And here's our clutch. And this is our access cover for our primary chain to check the tension. So let's do that now, shall we? It actually doesn't look too bad in there. It's not as black as you'd think. But it could use changing, so let's do it. Okay, as you can see, there's our primary drivetrain. We're just going to get our finger under there. As you can see, that's way less than 1/2 inch of play, and that's a good thing. The rubbing block seems to be in good working order and not too worn. It's a Teflon-y sort of thing. There's your adjuster right there, which will not require adjusting this time around. Maybe next time. Sorry, but I guess I won't be charging you money for that either. Like I said, that's pretty good. That's really good. This has been well cared for, and that's a good thing. Okay, well, we're also able to save this gasket without destroying. So that's also a good thing, because we don't have a new one. Okay, let's get some fresh fluid in this puppy. Oh shit, while we're here, as you can see, these are our primary drive sprockets from the crank. And they're really good. Teeth aren't oblongy. They still got quite a bit of meat on them. That's also a good thing. Okay, moving right along. I'm going to get to you in a minute. Back to you. There she comes out of there. From the 90s Evos, they had a drain plug, an Allen key, kind of down here on the bottom of the crankcase. On these older 80s Evos, though, they like to hide it amongst all the Allen keys that are holding the primary case on. This one's a fake. Dun, 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 dun. Now, if you don't know your old Harleys, you might have fun trying to get the fucking oil out of the primary. But, thank goodness, I've done this before. And yeah, that could use some changing. It's not as bad as you think, though. It's been changed before, I can tell. It's not as bad as the transmission was. We're just going to let that drippy dry for a minute. And then we're going to put fresh fluid in you. Yes, we are. Well, I think we better put your inspection cover back on, too. Let's do that. This, by the way, has a little magnet on it. Let's get that into focus. Oh, come on, work with me here. Okay, or don't. There we go. You can see that little magnet picks up any shavings, just like the other one in the transmission. It's got a little bit. It's probably mostly from the clutch. That's very minor for a primary, especially with this kind of mileage. So that's a good thing. Chain's showing it's in good order. Sprocket's good. So I'm going to say that's mostly clutch, probably off the steels. Okay, so we're going to put you back in a bike and put some oil in. Okay, putting our inspection cover back on. When you do this, I already did too before I started the phone here. What you want to do is go corner to corner, corner to corner in a star pattern and just snuggie them up. Just like that. Finger tight plus quarter turn. We're going to go back to where we started. And we're going to do the final tightening in the same order. Corner to corner. That's all she needs. You don't go crazy. This is an aluminum case. Don't strip them. You may be wondering, well, Sean, where's the filler? And I'm glad you asked that, because there ain't one. Primary fluid goes in here, and of course we've got our special Harley funnel for that. The newer bikes actually have a notch here for it to fit in. This one's older. This is pre-Harley funnel. What you do is you're going to want to put another 0.9 of a liter, or 9/10 of a quart, in there through this opening. And usually, the bike's on the side stand, usually just fill it up all it'll hold. When it starts to run out here, it's full. And that's all she uses. So let's get on that and go get our funnel. As you can see, we've got our little Harley funnel on our pre-Harley funnel Davidson. You can see the fluid in there, and it's just starting to run over this edge. That's enough. So we're going to take our rag, wipe off the excess, or she pisses on my floor even more. Make sure that little groove there, you can see it, is clean. And we want to get a little bit of oil on that. so our gasket doesn't dry up and it seats real nice. It is an old gasket after all. Okay, we got our shifter in this configuration. As you can see, the Allen keys are now up where I can get at them. That makes my life a lot easier. They were upside down under here before in some really weird positions, so we're going to try this and see that for comfort level. We got good clearance. The shifter's actuating, not hitting the case, and that's a good thing. It sure seems to give you more room on the floorboards for your foot, and this is right where your toe is. So this is comfortable. You can even get your foot under here now and use this like a normal shifter and click up and down if you want to. I mean, I wouldn't. I have a heel shifter. I like it very much. And as you can see, there's a grease nipple on the shifter rod. We're gonna put a little grease in there. She's getting a little worn. There's nothing to worry about. We're gonna grease that up, see if we can't get a more precise shift out of her. I need both hands for this grease gun, so give me 1 second. Okay, we got grease coming out right away, but we're gonna push some more and wipe it off, and I'm gonna push some of that. There we go. I want to see clean grease coming out of there. Push that old shit out of there. There we go. Okay, well, we got it. Oh yeah, that's much tighter. Okay, let's just give her a little more. It's okay. There's appear to be a gasket in there, at least not much of one left. So I'd rather have some grease in there for some lubrication and take up some of that slack. So that's all done. Pop that off. There we go. And we're gonna take our oily rag, which we have plenty of. We're gonna take that excess right off of there. There we go. That's like a shiny penny. A little bit of hay, that would be my contribution. There we go. We're going to put these bolts in. Now we're going to have to test drive, but that's going to have to wait till tomorrow. It's late, and we don't want to wake the neighbors. Let's also see if we can straighten out this horn mount, because she's sitting kind of funny. And that bracket looks a little bent to me. Let's see if we can get in there. Well, I think I can do something about that too. So moving right along, let's get the bolts in our shifter and let's make sure she drives comfortably. We might have to adjust it a spline or two, but let's find out. It's got to be perfect. Okay, we're all back together. Shiny these up. When you get these out, it's a good idea to put a little transmission fluid on them and wipe them down. Keeps the threads clean, keeps it from seizing up. And when you need to change one of these, and if God willing, if you ever crash or something, you might have to, you want to be able to get these out. And here we're going to check the linkage on the shifter at the rod. The way we do this is we hold the rod still and we push front to back. And there really shouldn't be more than like 1 millimeter of play. This one actually doesn't even have that much, so that's good. This is getting a little sloppy. It's better now that we put grease in it. But yeah, that's wear and tear, and that's perfectly normal. She's not a new bike, and she's not a show bike. She's a go bike. But she's not going to fail. But she might rattle a bit. That's okay. Our shifter rod's good. Our linkage at the back is also in good shape. Now here you can see just a little bit of movement. It's not bad, but that's what I'm talking about. If it gets much worse than that, you've got to replace this bushing on this rod. These are usually okay. This is just a ball, and this is a socket. And they can get a little wore out after a while. They take a lot of pressure. I mean, we're putting our heel into that, and with some effort too. So it's all right though. This one's good. And these are commonly going, and it's usually the back one that gets it the worst, where they're right here at the tranny. These ones are okay. So that's it for that, and we shall reconvene tomorrow. I'm going to try to take my wife maybe, and we can get a video just how this thing's going and the comfort level of this shifter. Now it's hopefully, I've got this dead on. I sure think I do. We'll see how it drives and feels. And that is just about all of it. We have a bit of reassembly to do. Of course, we've got every cover on the bike off, and got to get everywhere because Harley likes to hide all these little hoses, and can't get at the belt if you don't. Well, here we go. And take a look at the gaskets. Here's a seal there from the primary to the crankcase, and it seems to be good. There's a little bit of grit in there, no big deal. Mostly road dirt. Cylinder head is perfect. Good Lord, you don't need a head gasket. God, Carl, how am I going to make any money working for you? You take too good care of your motorcycles. Good Lord. Might have to get a little paint work though, but we can do that too. Old girl like this, I think she's worth it. All the electrical seems to be in order. She's charging beautifully, and that battery tender is just a joy to use. All right, folks. Let's see if we can clean up some of our mess, put this old girl back together, and pick up our thousands of Allen keys everywhere. I think they're breeding.